living a full and well life put together, authentic.
We feel it.
Take care of ourselves. Hello and welcome back to the Wishing You Well podcast. I'm Amy Albero.
And I'm Catherine Van Eyck.
We're both licensed therapists, and we spend our days learning from our clients about their experiences. And on Wishing You Well, we want to continue to learn from others, so we share and hear stories about how we navigate our own journeys to well-being.
Full disclosure, and I have an episode today where we might be really annoying.
Sorry.
Sorry in advance. We talk about fitness, we talk about movement, we talk about exercise, our experiences in the past, in the present, and potentially where we're going with it in the future, and how it's all evolved over time. We talk about our relationship with working out, which that might be where we get a little annoying, so that's sorry. And we even give a few tips for people that are looking for putting movement into their life. Before we get into our conversation around exercise, we have to talk about self-care. So Amy, why don't you go first? Tell me how your self-care is. Check in. How are you?
I set myself up for that.
You did.
I'm good. I have definitely been doing a lot of traveling lately, which has affected my self-care and just like overall how I'm feeling. I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like I'm getting a good handle on all of that. And my self-care has had a lot to do with it in terms of like just trying to stay in a routine as much as possible. And maybe that's like one of those like not fun self-care things. But for me, like having routine and consistency is like such a main way that I like care for myself. It's like the minute I'm off routine, I like realize like, oh, I didn't drink any water today, or I haven't like gotten up enough. And so I've been trying to maintain a steady routine. But another big part of my self-care, oh, go ahead.
Well, before you talk about another one, your routine, that looks different wherever you are, right? So you have your Connecticut routine and your Miami routine. So how do you even keep track of the routine or the routines?
Well, I'm trying to keep my routine as similar as I possibly can across all locations. And so like what that typically looks like is like still waking up with enough time to like have a like at-home latte. That's been, and I'll do a side story for that, but to have that, and that's like been so comforting. Moving my body in the morning is something that is very, very helpful. And what tends to be, and like my morning routine is typically the thing that I need to like set myself up for just like comfort, not even like success, but comfort. And like those couple of things, like waking up early, having my at-home coffee, moving my body, all of that stuff is like what I've kept consistent. Even recently, I was on a trip with my mom and I still did those things. I like, still got up, had my coffee quietly, went to the gym and just like needed that stability. And yes, like while like my life and lifestyle during the day is a bit different depending on like where I am physically, that morning piece is what I really need across locations.
That's great. I mean, to even maintain it while you were technically away on a trip, that's like extra difficult. I mean, maybe because you travel so much, you're just used to like, okay, how can I do this here?
Yeah. Well, and it was something that I had like really planned and talked about before, and I went on a trip with my mom. And so like had talked with her about and said like, this is something that's going to be really important to me, so that we have like a really good time.
Wow. Okay. Really good point to make about self-care, that sometimes you need to share whatever that self-care is with other people, especially if you're going to be sharing spaces with them.
Yeah.
To make sure that you do it. That's great.
Yes. Yeah. And I like also like didn't want to necessarily feel guilty for like, this is like not just my trip, it's her trip too. And I was like trying to be conscious of not having my routine get in the way of like what else like we had planned. And so like she was like very supportive and was like, of course, like do whatever you need to do. And it was very, very helpful. Like I went into the day like feeling like, okay, I got what I needed in order to like show up for myself and for her in this trip in the way that I really wanted to. But yeah, the communication piece is huge. And I guess what it looks like on the back end is like really prioritizing sleep. And that's something, as you know, and if you've been listening for a while, your listeners know that like sleep is tough. And so I've been just like trying to get to bed as early as possible. And again, that on the other end, like impacts my relationship because like sometimes I'm in bed at 8:30 and my husband's like still, out or doing whatever he's doing. And so again, trying to communicate as much as possible about like my self-care and what my needs are right now.
You doing anything differently to get yourself to sleep and stay asleep lately?
Ugh, no, the staying asleep is really tough. The getting to sleep isn't so bad because I'm pretty tired, but the staying asleep is pretty tough. I'm trying to read, a lot before bed rather than like, be on my phone or like be on a screen in that way. And that helps a bit. And I'm trying to like I've been really thinking a lot about our episode with Dr. Sarah Silverman and really thinking about the way that our thinking impacts our ability to sleep. And so I've been channeling a lot of what we learned from her in order to stay asleep. So I'm working on it. It's a work in progress. But how about you? How are you? How's your self-care?
I'm feeling pretty good after coming off of I still sound a little congested. I was not feeling great at the end of last week. My self-care is a little bit of a treat, and it was like a treat that I didn't see coming. So I spent some time with a friend on Saturday who had just come back from Greece, and I went to Greece on my honeymoon. So I was kind of like reliving some things about Greece through my friend's trip. And one of the things that she loved was this drink that they have in Greece called a Freddo cappuccino. And they have it in Italy too. And it's essentially a nice cappuccino, like if we're not being fancy here. I remembered how much I loved it. My husband and I got it all the time when we were there. And I haven't had it since. And so for Father's Day, first, let's help my daughter celebrate Father's Day for my husband on Sunday. I ended up making him one and myself one. And then I was like so into it. I was like, it made me so happy that yesterday, actually, when I spilt my coffee all over the floor, with the help of my daughter, just like knocking it out of my hands. I can't blame her. I was carrying too much stuff. And she just whoop. So she spilled my regular coffee out of my hands, which like I'm very fortunate to have a husband who makes my coffee every single day. I didn't that day. And I was like, well, now I know how to make this other thing. So I whipped it up really quick on my way out the door. And it was like the best little treat to drink on my way to work. And yeah, it was just like so special and so wonderful.
Mhm.
And I didn't make one today. You gotta keep it like a
Special.
little special.
Yeah.
But now that I know how to make it will be making an appearance every now and then.
I love
And
that. Is it complicated to make?
no, it's literally like I was afraid of my espresso machine. Then when my friend was over and she was like, "Oh, well, I do kind of have a little bit of a headache." I was like, "I will try to make you an espresso. Let me give it a shot." So I tried and it was super easy, of course. So you just like cool the espresso and you take ice cubes and you put that in the cooled espresso, in the cup with the cool espresso. And then you froth the milk. And I know you love your frothed milk too, God, with that friggin' thing, that immersion guy
Mhm.
frosts the milk in like 4 seconds. It's
Mhm.
beautiful.
Mhm.
Wow. So then you just spoonful that on top. Technically, you're supposed to add sugar too, but like I never add sugar to my coffee, so I just didn't do that. And that's it. That's literally all of it.
Sounds lovely. I need to do a quick detour to tell you why my self-care is a little bit shitty right now, though, because you just reminded me of what's not going well with my
Oh,
self-care.
your
My
frother.
frother's broken, and I
No.
didn't realize how much my self-care hinged on frothed milk, damn it. So you talking about this is, God, like adding salt to the wound.
Wow. Oh, sorry. Why haven't you gotten a new one? It's been a while.
Well, so okay, so it broke. I got a new one. I got the exact one I have in Miami. It
Mhm.
is not frothing. So now I've had two bad frothers. And so I
Do
need
you
to
have
get
like it starts with an I? I think it's like Immersi or like
I do
I
have
don't
one of
know.
those too.
Okay. You don't like that one?
It's just nothing's working right now. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hijack your self-care, but I'm feeling FOMO over here. Because when I'm in Connecticut, I don't have frothed milk. When I'm in Miami, I will. But in Connecticut, there's no frothed milk to be found.
Wow. Maybe you need to pack it in your carry-on from now on.
I may.
Can you imagine?
I get stopped by security. Ma'am, what is this doing in here? My life depends on it. I'm sorry. I'm glad you are enjoying your coffee treat. One of us has to.
Are you in Miami now?
I will be there tomorrow.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you'll have some really good frosted milk coffee. It's a little thing, but it
It is a
makes all
little
the
thing.
difference. Wow.
So what holds you back from having one of these every day?
Honestly, because I get my coffee made for me, so
So if he did it, then you'd have it.
yeah.
Yeah.
If I special ordered it for sure,
Mhm.
and we have fine coffee. It's
Mhm.
fantastic. He makes a great brew.
Mhm. He's really into
Pour over.
coffee.
Yeah,
right?
he's really into coffee. So like, and I love a good black regular coffee too. So like, don't get me wrong, you know. But yeah,
It is a
this
nice way to
one,
start the day.
it is. And this was an iced coffee. You know how you got to start with a warm one. The
Obviously.
iced ones later. So
Well, that is our opinion. I would be really curious about if we're alone in that. If our listeners agree that the first cup needs to be hot.
no, we should ask for sure.
So maybe we'll put a poll on YouTube or on Spotify, and you can tell
Yep.
us.
The important aspects of what you learn here on Wishing You
Yes.
Well.
Is that either you drink hot coffee in the morning only, or you're wrong.
Or you have froth milk, or you're upset.
Okay. Well, I will report back on my milk frothing situation when we meet next. I promise.
Fantastic.
I know you'll be dying to hear.
We haven't done an update in a while, so
We haven't.
I'll make note for that.
It's probably time. I have so many questions about your self-care practices that I would love an update on. So perhaps soon. But in speaking of self-care, I know for us, movement, exercise, fitness is a big part of the way that we engage in self-care. And so we wanted to talk a bit about that today and talk about our kind of like journey and experience with exercise and how that has like shifted and changed throughout our life. And again, like the place it holds in our life as it relates to our own well-being. It's a nice little segue from what we're talking about right now with self-care.
Yeah. And I also feel like because it's such a big part of both of our lives and because it's like kind of had a life of its own in the way that it's changed over time, I think that we just were feeling like we can really devote an entire episode to this, not only because it's important to you and me, but also just how much has changed around it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Where do you like when you think of your relationship to movement and exercise, fitness now, and you knew that we were going to be talking about this? Did you think back to like, well, when did I even like this whole thing? Like, how did that even happen?
Yes. Yeah. And that was kind of interesting to think about. And it was making me think about our conversation with Daniela Trotman from a few episodes back. And so like what I think we had talked about at that point was like, I was an athlete growing up. And so like moving my body was just like such a huge part of my life, but I didn't like, I never equated it to exercise. I never really thought much about it. Like it just felt like second to a sport. Like I don't know if that necessarily makes sense, but it just felt separate. And then, excuse me. And then once I was kind of done with my sports career and like moved into my adulthood, it felt like I couldn't really figure out a good place for it. And I think that I had felt like I wanted to incorporate fitness more, but I was really having a hard time figuring out like what that meant, where it could fit in my life and all of that stuff. And truly, it wasn't until like my wedding, which is like very stereotypical, that I like really leaned into fitness again. Like truthfully, some of it was aesthetic, right? Like in thinking about like how I wanted to look and feel on that day. But the other piece was that I was transitioning in a job. There was a lot happening family wise at the time that I felt like I really wanted a different way to manage my stress. And so I had found like really leaned into fitness then. So that was like maybe 12 years ago. And so through that time from 12 years ago to now is like when I really think about my fitness journey and the way that that's morphed and changed. But so much of it is like my relationship to fitness and journey with it has a lot to do with my experience being an athlete growing up. What about
Like the way that it is now.
yeah. I mean, I can definitely get into more specifics for sure, but I think that like one thing that I love about like sports is like it's just such a fun way to move your body. Like I still identify as being an athlete in a lot of ways. Like I love that. Like I was just playing catch with my nephew over the weekend, and like I just love like fielding grounders and like throwing a ball up in the air and catching it. Like, you know, when my husband and I play volleyball together, like I love the sport of it. And so like I get so much joy from moving my body and like learning new skills. And I think that that's translated a lot into what I enjoy about like more stereotypical fitness. I love being challenged. I love movement that feels like useful and practical and functional. But I also love having milestones to hit and like seeing myself improve and get better in the way that I did with sports too. And so like I tend to really enjoy workouts that are a little bit more like very active or like maybe border on like the more like higher intensity scale. Because I love a physical challenge. I feel like I just really enjoy that a lot. And not that it necessarily needs to be high impact, but like I love a challenging workout. I love to see what my body is capable of. And I feel like I got a lot of that from sports as well.
So nice. And it's so cool that you've like found ways to do that now. I think that's like the hardest part of being an ex-athlete whenever that X happened. uh is like finding that again if that's something that like you want, and that's really cool that you've been able to do that in like your actual workouts, but then like in those side things too, like playing with your nephew and things like that. That's cool.
Yeah, and there's more there that I'm sure we'll get to, but I want to hear about you too. Like when movement and exercise, your idea of exercise, like where does that like begin for you?
Yeah, I mean, similar similar to you. I also, you know, grew up an athlete, and I know I ended my athletedom before you did, Miss College player here. However, when I did stop playing sports at the end of high school, my signal to like, oh, maybe I should think about working out was that physical change of like I didn't realize how much playing sports impacted the way that I felt in my body and the way that I thought that I looked. So that was my signal. It was like I didn't feel like I did, and wanted to feel like that, and I wanted to look like I looked when I played sports. Um so I started looking into like I was like, let me try just running, because that we don't need to do anything serious here. I can just to the pavement, find somewhere to go, and come back home. So I started doing that for a little bit, and like didn't think it was, quote unquote working. Like it wasn't my thing. I just thought it should be a thing. And especially in looking at runners and what runners look like, I was like, well, why don't I look like that? Why isn't this happening in the way that I think that it should? So with absolutely no research whatsoever, actually nothing behind it other than what I'm seeing in front of me. Oh, that do Pilates, they're pretty fit. Oh, people that do yoga, wow, they're lean. Let me look at that. Let me do that. So I just like dabbled for a
Mhm.
while after high school into college. I went to a college that was very like very gym heavy. It was like just very much a part of the culture at my school for all the girls to go and work out, but like all the girls to go and work out on the first floor where all the cardio is.
Mhm.
And go wear your Lululemon and like go get your cardio on. And it was just like inside, like just as much as like people wearing their vineyard vines and going to frat parties was like part of the culture. It was there. I like saw that and like conformed to it a little bit, but also wasn't afraid to go downstairs into the gym and try to lift weights because something that I had been doing with my boyfriend at the time, now husband, was like learning how to lift weights and learning that if you lift weights, you're not going to be a big bodybuilder. Oh, really? And like that was a first introduction to lifting weights does not make you become Arnold Schwarzenegger. But it took a while for me to like really grasp that and really understand the not only like the importance of lifting weights, but also what it can do for you internally, but also aesthetically. So it took a really long time to like get to that point, which is kind of where I'm at right now. But I did want to say, I did not feel afraid to go downstairs with the boys and do those weights. But like I still kept dabbling. I would like do spinning and I would do bar classes and like I did all these things and I was like looking for my thing. Like I was looking for like what is going to make me, honestly, it was like for a long time it was like a what is going to make me look like a supermodel.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
was like trying to find the most, or I was trying to look for something that was like unrealistic and
Mhm.
like not me.
Mhm.
And so I think like my relationship to it really had an evolution around like the meaning of it and like what I wanted to get from it, as well as like what I thought was, realistic and what I
Mhm.
realized wasn't later.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that's where it started and kind of where
Yeah.
it took me for a little while.
I'm so glad you brought that part up around like your relationship to it was around like attaining a certain like body goal. And it's so interesting because I don't know what why I didn't register that when I was sharing my piece of it because that's such a huge part of my like journey with exercise. And I feel like so much of what I've been like trying to decouple is that of like, like the only, I'm using air quotes, like the only reason to work out is for like pure aesthetic reasons. So I feel like I'm like subconsciously like trying to even rid that from my from my narrative here. But
Yeah.
but I think that like that was a big piece for me, which I think especially in that in between of like being an athlete and then like finding my way like when I was getting married. I think a lot of it like didn't necessarily like stick because I feel like it was so much about like weight loss and like attaining a certain body type and it was like becoming so unpleasant for me to do like it had really lost its enjoyment and I think I still
Because you were
struggle.
working towards this goal that wasn't
Yeah.
happening because
Yes.
that's not you.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. As much as I would love to try, I will never be, 5'7" and, 90 pounds. Like my body is just like not that. Nor do I aspire to that anymore. But I
Right.
think, I'm a product of like growing up in the 2000s. So like that's that was the name of the game.
Mhm.
But I think, you know, I was thinking a lot as well, and I don't know if this is true for you, but I grew up with parents that were also like very fit. Like some of my like first memories are like going to step aerobics class with my mom, like seeing her like do step aerobics, and she was so fit. My dad is also like very active and does CrossFit now at 70. Like, and so like fitness has always been a part of like my family culture, with the idea that it's again like for like an aesthetic gain. And I think I'm like with the way that our society is now, I have a hard time with like feeling like is it even a little bit okay that like I do like the way that my body looks when I am working out. You know what I mean? Like there's something like I like seeing the results of my work. I like seeing like my arms be more defined or something like that. And so like again, as I'm trying to like not have the sole emphasis be on like for what my body looks like and also what my body feels like, I'm also trying to let myself feel good and proud of like the physical results, is that the right word?
Yeah,
For the work that I'm doing.
absolutely. Yeah, I think that there's like a really strong message out there that says that we shouldn't be like thinking that um or wanting to achieve that. But I think that there's still like a level of it where it's okay. There's a
Mm.
level of it that's like within the and I'm going back to like what my idea before around like I wanted to look like a supermodel that like literally just not my body, it's not my body type. But like if you're working within the bounds of your own of what your body is capable of doing, I don't see any issue with wanting your body to look a certain way under that, umbrella of like
Mhm.
the I'm thinking like if your body can look like a spectrum of things under its like one vessel, like it's okay to want it to be at one end of that.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, and again, like potentially a controversial take. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, I do know why it's become controversial, but I
Yeah.
feel like what something that we might have lost, like in you know, as a greater society, is like the ability to like really appreciate and love your body, like through exercise and like being able to as I said before, like I you know I used to be, because I was a pitcher in softball, like my arms and shoulders and back are like just bigger, they're just more broad, and I used to feel so self-conscious about like how big my arms looked. And now that I can say like wow, my arms are muscular and strong, and that's like pretty awesome, or like feeling really self-conscious about like my thighs and like how like big my thighs looked, and now like feeling like damn, I could run 5 miles and like my legs are really strong. And so like being able to like again appreciate the definition that's come in my body as a result of exercise. And again, to your point, like I'm not saying like I just want to shrink myself or like contort my body makeup to look a certain way. It's more like using fitness to enhance like what I have and appreciate it.
Ooh, enhance. That's a really good way to say it. I like that. Yeah. And I think that pointing out what your body can do, that's incredible. And I think like one great moment I've had with that was in my postpartum
Mm.
fitness part of this whole like evolution with movement, because that was like its own or is its own whole chapter. I really had to like start from like zero after okay, I wouldn't say zero because I worked out really hard during my pregnancy, and as a way to help with the recovery and getting back into working out, go listen to our Fitstagram Michelle episodes
Hmm.
for info on that. But I really felt like I was part of me was starting from like zero when I eventually started working out again after like once I got cleared to exercise after my daughter was born. So I've like really gone from this like 0 point, like I couldn't do a plank after giving birth, like literally you're just like not supposed to because like
Mhm.
it's just not okay over there. But now, oh my God, I can hold a plank for like over a minute.
Mhm.
And so like even that makes me so happy to see that I can do that. And like it's kind of funny that I said that I was working, I had workouts with my past boyfriend, now husband. He still programs my workouts. So he I was doing a workout that he had me do that he had programmed for me recently. And like the end of it was to do a few rounds of planks and they were all 30 seconds long. And I like kept going and I was like, oh my God, I can do this. Oh, this is so cool. Whoa. Like it just made me giddy to like know
Mhm.
that I came that far in the 8 months that she's been alive and that I've been like really, really trying over here.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty spectacular.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like having the perspective, right, of like not being allowed to do certain things and then like appreciating like building the strength and like to that your body is able to do it again. Like yeah, your body changed dramatically over the last year
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah.
And with that were modifications or limitations on what you can do. And so yeah, I imagine it's really cool to have like been with your body through that and also like again see what you're capable of still or now. I think that's again I resonate with that too. And going through a couple of years ago like a horrible injury where I like my mobility was so limited, or even last year, again, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, I was going through so many like minor health issues that like really impacted my ability to like have energy and move. And
Mhm.
now that I feel like myself, like the joy of like, my gosh, like I appreciate how much my body can move and what it can do. And I like want to yeah, see what else it's capable of. I think that's like the most fun thing is like, let me just like try and like see what I can just like see what I can do. And like I surprise myself more often than not, which I think is really cool.
When you say that, I have to also say for us, I feel like you and I also have this interesting relationship with fitness in general that like a lot of people just don't have. And I say that in a way that's like you like have to get your workout in. I have to get a workout in too on the days that I am like rammed in my head or by my husband to work out. Like those are the days that it's happening.
Mhm.
And that if it doesn't happen, isn't so much a like now, and I'm talking now, like is not now like a oh my God, my like now I can't eat the X, Y, or Z. It's just a letdown of not being able to do something that I was really looking forward to doing and something
Mhm.
that makes me feel really good and something that challenges me and something that excites me. And a lot of people don't have that relationship with working out in a way that people dread it and do it
Mhm.
anyway. People like are unmotivated and they'll do it anyway, or people won't do it when they're not motivated. There just are a lot of different relationships around working out that I think is worth bringing up because I know that your relationship with it has changed over the years and so has mine, and I could help somebody get to like a level of this kind of relationship, I would. I
Mhm.
just like I don't know how to describe that need to that doesn't
Mhm.
sound like a oh my God, I have to
Obsession. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, or like a source of stress. Yeah, yeah, I don't feel
Right.
that way. I don't feel
No.
it's not like some like stress that comes or like yeah, it's
Yeah.
not really obsessive. It's just the joy, the benefit I get from it is so felt and like I just get so much from it that it's like such a bummer.
Yeah, it's a
When I
bummer. Like the biggest thing. It's like that
yeah,
sucks.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I know you know this, but my husband is like he does not have this relationship to exercise that we do. And so that it's been like kind of a really fascinating thing to like like develop and strengthen my relationship with fitness and movement alongside him in the because as I said like my real journey started when we were engaged and getting married, and so he's been with me this whole time obviously, and so like when I like try to explain, like I genuinely love working out. Like I love will like do a hard workout. And like that was amazing. And he's like, Amy, that was awful. Like I never want to do anything like that again. And we just have such a different reaction to it. But what I will say is like one thing that has been true for him throughout the years is like obviously we're different bodies, we have different interests, all of that stuff. And when I've seen him do things that he really enjoys, he leans hard in. Like he will feel the same way. And so like he's really into martial arts. And so like that's something I have no interest in. I'm never going to do. Like whenever we do any like martial arts inspired workout, I hate it. I want to stop halfway. I don't get the same joy. But he's like really, really into it. And so all of that to say, like, I do think it is to take a page out of your book like, about dabbling a bit and figuring out like what you do like and what you do enjoy. I will, again, not sponsored by Orange Theory, willing to be sponsored by Orange Theory, but he has been doing Orange Theory and he in a very different way is very competitive and likes that. And so that's the thing that like while he's not like, I got a high from this workout, it's more like I got a high from like beating all these people or
Nice.
but yeah, he doesn't see fitness, it doesn't fill him up in the same way that it does for you or I. And I wish it did.
Well, and I wonder in those circumstances, is it more of like it seems like he has something that does fill him up in that way or some in a similar way, but does he not seek it out as often or
Mhm.
like is it just harder to do on a regular basis?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think it's harder to do on a regular basis, and I think he's similar to me in that like he really likes to be challenged, but I feel like he gets that challenge elsewhere. Like that's not necessarily
Good point.
physical, that's more
Mhm.
like mental and intellectual. And so I feel like he gets that tapped in another way. And so I think that that's a piece of it for him. And you know, again, to your point, maybe we're more unique in this than the average person because I feel like I've met with a lot of clients. I have a lot of friends that like just I think they want to get into a more regular fitness habit, a routine, and just like can't do it. And I do think a lot of it has to do with like how starting with relationship to exercise, how you even define exercise and movement and what your goals are around it, what your why is behind it. Because I think otherwise, I think people just pick up whatever looks like it should work and then get frustrated or feel derailed when it doesn't.
Would you say your why right now is to is that high that you get in that like and that like challenge that you like get to
Um,
experience or like is there something else?
I think it's a mix. I think I had been working out at home for again most of those 10 years and like was and pretty again I love fitness so like I was pretty self-motivated but maybe over the last like 2 to 3 years it's been like a little bit more challenging to motivate myself. So a big part of my why is like again, being new in Miami, being around people and being part of a community. Another part of my why is like with things feeling kind of stressful and out of my control, like having something that I can like dive fully in for an hour where I don't have to think about anything else and it's tangible and I have like something to aim for like that's a big part of my why. And I think I'm also like aging for me is like so front and center. And so I feel like I think about our podcast episode with Brett, your husband, where he was like, I want to be a badass 80-year-old. And I feel like that's been so on the forefront of my mind is like that so much of this is like proactive or preventative in order to like assist me like in aging and like wanting to take care of myself not only now but later. And so I've been really that's a again probably a bigger more central why than the other two.
That's the biggest one for me. And it's the aging. Yeah, like like what Brett said, like when I'm 80, when I'm 90, when I'm 100. But like it's the aging that like where I'm at right now. Like I feel really good about what I'm capable of doing right now. Like I was at the beach on Sunday with my family, and I'm sitting in this deep squat, just like picking up shovel and these little tools with my nephews. And my brother, who's 6 years older than I am, he's like, "Are you like cramping up? Like, are you uncomfortable?" I was so comfortable. I kid you not. I could have just like sat there, like I looked like a monkey. I could have sat there for the entire time that we were at the beach. I was like, fine. So it had occurred to me when he said that I was like, how cool, like doing something right here.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I wanted to do. Like I want to be able to play with my daughter and like run around with her, and then yeah, okay, when I'm 60, 70, and then she has kids
Mm-hmm.
and or eventual other kids have kids, like I want to play with all of them. I want to do the things, I want to move around and not feel like I'm going to break a limb or throw my back out or
Mm-hmm.
I want to feel good.
Yeah. Honestly, like it really, as you're saying this, like so much of, as I said, I was playing catch with my nephew. So was my dad. And again, my dad's like going to be 71 soon. He was sitting in it like a catcher squat for like an hour. I was like, Dad, are you okay? He was like, I'm good. Popping up, getting like balls that went high. And I was like in such awe. And just like felt so inspired and firmed and like, this is the wealth that like I want to like give to my family is like the being able to be so youthful and engaged in my like later adulthood. It's a gift.
It's also one of those things too, like you talked about like getting injured and then like
Yes.
also like when you're sick and you
Hmm.
can't move and you can't do what you're typically used to, like it's just so debilitating to
Hmm.
feel like that contrast in ability that like I only want to feel like that for the, 3 to 5 day cold that I'm going to get or
Hmm.
flu or COVID or whatever. Like, I don't want to feel that for an extended period of time. I don't, if
Hmm.
I didn't have to feel it for the cold, okay. All right.
Hmm.
I'm in. All right. I'll lay down. Okay. But no, long time. Mm-mm. No, thank
Hmm.
you. Count me out.
Hmm. Right. Well, and I think I forget who we had talked to, but I feel like one of the things we had talked about with that guest might have been like just like how okay the general population is with like feeling like shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like how we've
Mm-hmm.
sort of accepted that, like accepted whether it's again like stomach issues or just aches and pains or like lack of mobility or like back aches, like we've just like we've just accepted that and like I refuse. And maybe it's because again, having been injured or having gone through, ailments with my body and feeling like if my body can do it, it's going to do it. Like I need it. I need it to do its job for me. And I'm going to do my job for it too. Like I just refuse to feel like shit if I don't have to.
Agreed. Agreed. And then I think that, and we've kind of talked about this, but like the like mind body connection that we get to working out or fitness, like no, I don't so much like I don't know, I'm not like as intentional about it when it comes to like of the weightlifting portion of the movement stuff. Like it's there, it's there. It's the aftermath of like those like endorphins that I'm getting, or
Mm-hmm.
like even the before, like the anticipation of like, like okay, I can finally like okay, my daughter just went to sleep. I can get to the gym. I can do my weights. I can do all this, and like there's so much else going on that I'm not really aware of, that I probably should be more aware of, and in terms of just like getting that much more from it. Um, but I will say that I do get more of that like mind body action stuff with the slower, more
Mm-hmm.
like fluid kind of exercises or movement type based things like walking and like doing yoga. the things that you'd like expect to get mind body connection
Mhm.
through.
Mhm.
Um, I think I expect it to be there, so I seek it out there and
Mhm.
then therefore get it there.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, yes, that makes sense, and I feel it's built into the practice in some way of, like, connecting
You're
your
talking
breath.
about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your breath with your movement and all of that stuff. See, I'm, like, kind of the opposite. I feel like, again, like, I'm gonna, like, rant in a positive way for a second, so just bear with me, but, like, the thing that you can tell, like, I'm so passionate about this, but, like, the thing that I love about, like, exercise, especially challenging workouts, is I feel like it is such a great opportunity to practice, the mind-body connection, to, like, leverage these opportunities of being in a challenge, in a physical challenge, as a way to help, like, build that and strengthen that muscle of, like, working through a challenge in your life. Like, I like when I'm in a challenge in life, like, my self-talk is shit. It's always like, oh, this is terrible. I want this to be over. When I'm in a challenge physically, my self-talk is so helpful. Like, you got this, you can do this. Like, it's gonna be, it will be over soon. You can get through it. You've been through hard things. And I feel like the more I put myself in physical challenges and have that practice of being really kind to myself and patient with myself and cheering myself on, the more that that helps build my capacity to do that in other points in my life. And I feel like it's been so useful, like, for me to be really thoughtful, in my like fitness world of things, like, because I also see it as like this is a microcosm for life and like life's challenges. And like, if I'm not only like working the muscles of my body, but like working the muscles of my brain to like know resiliency and know that I can overcome challenges. So like, that's how I think about the mind body connection with movement.
No, you're right. I've totally done that too. Okay, yeah, because I forgot about this one thing, the whole like labor and childbirth
Oh,
thing.
that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. So like, and I just gave this piece of advice to somebody recently. Um, somebody who a friend of my sister-in-law who like is also probably like us, like she's like just loves working out. She's very adamant about it. She was through her pregnancy. She does F45
Mhm.
workouts. Was I don't know if she was asking me about birth or I just did the whole thing where I just like told her about it anyway. And and I was like, "Hey, listen, will you I'm going to tell you something that somebody told me before I gave birth, that like you put yourself in uncomfortable situations all the time when you're working out. And it's uncomfortable, but it's not painful. And you can think of birth and labor as the exact same way. And I did. I thought of it like that when I was in labor with my daughter, was had this whole not only like that whole comparison as far as like the muscles you're using are similar to the ones that you're using when you're working out, but also like just the mindset around reps and breathing and challenging. I had that mindset going through labor, and I tell people all the time, and this might be, also be an unpopular opinion, but I tell people all the time that I was not in pain. Oh, it was not in an ounce of pain during that entire time. I was uncomfortable. And being uncomfortable and being in pain are totally different. And so
Mhm.
you hit on something so, so important here that, like, if you take that mindset and you apply it to something that you're going through in your personal life, in your relationships, with your family, with your friends, with work, whatever it is, that can really, really get you
Mhm.
somewhere.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes. And I also think about it from the opposite end, like times that I'm like kind of not feeling it. Like yesterday at the gym, I felt like I was like running on a high incline when I wasn't. It was just like really fucking hard. And I just kept thinking like, Amy, this is like 20 minutes. Like, you've done 20 minutes of difficult things like in your life. Like, you can do 20 minutes. Like, 20 minutes is nothing. And so I feel like I like used it for the like to motivate myself too, of like, in life you could sit through 20 minutes of something being something difficult, like, you're a therapist.
Oh, and also like even just the comparison of like you felt like you were on an incline.
Mhm.
For whatever reason, that workout was so much harder for you that day, and just
Mhm.
cutting yourself the slack that you
Mhm.
need to get through that workout.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
hey,
I adjusted
typically
my
at
pace. Yeah. I
right.
didn't try to like compare my yesterday self to myself the day before that. Yeah, exactly.
Some days you're gonna be able to lift a lot, some days you're not, some days you're gonna be able to run really fast, some days you're not. And that's I think another thing that probably you and I have evolved with over time too.
Mhm.
'Cause it
Yes.
also yeah, and that's like also that athlete mentality that comes
Mhm.
into it.
Mhm.
Just knowing that some days you're gonna have off days and whatever else is going on in your life impacts that moment. Of course it does,
Yeah.
greatly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I was thinking like when I was like newer to fitness was also like a very different point in my life. And I never used to modify. I would refuse to modify. Like whenever I like felt like some like pain, not just discomfort, but pain, I would like make myself push through it. And it was so parallel to how I would do life. And I used to like feel proud that I never modified. And now, again, like 11 years later, I'm like so I think it's such a highlight of where I am in my life that I like give my body the respect of like modifying when like it's unsafe to continue, or like giving myself the grace to like adjust my speed or like not lift as heavy because I'm tired. Giving my body what it needs has been like, again, I'm using exercise to like practice that self compassion too. So we're being very aspirational right now.
Yes. Is someone gonna listen to this and just be really annoyed?
Yes. Yeah, probably. We're sorry.
Are we really annoying?
I think so.
Yes. Sorry, not sorry. Well, okay, I think something that we haven't talked about, and I know that I said before, like I wish that I could impart this feeling with that I have with fitness onto other people because I think a lot of people would want it. Like you
Mhm.
said, people want it or like want it but don't know how to get it. And also I just want people to because like I want people to be healthy too.
Mhm.
Uh but I think like the place to start is kind of going along with what you said your husband does, like doing something that you really like. Start with something that you really like to do. Don't force yourself to be a runner. God forbid. Don't force yourself to be a freaking runner. You don't like to run.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
do martial arts, do dance, do jump rope, do like freaking hula hooping for goodness sake. And start there. Like start with something that and especially if you're somebody that like literally hates it, like do something that you hate the least.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, yes, and it's like it's so simple and it's like such widely ignored advice. And because I think again what working out quote unquote means, like we all have a picture of what that looks like. Where like maybe that's a goal that you want to get to, but like at first you have to just like be with your body and like figure out what feels good in your body. And like in order to build a habit, like we need to have some buy-in or some interest in wanting to do it. And so like I love that idea of like doing something that yeah would suck the least in any way, shape, or form. And I think also like trying to start with where you are. Like it doesn't need to be a 60-minute workout. Or I've heard people like, I'm at the gym for 3 hours. Why? Get out of there. You know, spending a few minutes, 15, 20 minutes, especially if it's like something that you're trying to get into or get back into. You have to set yourself up for some sort of success to find enjoyment in it. Because I don't think that you or I would do it if we didn't enjoy it.
And I think I would also say, and this is kind of coming off of the conversation I had with one of my friends the other day. She like hadn't been feeling motivated to work out. I'm thinking about our episode on motivation. Like, don't wait for motivation. Motivation's not gonna be what gets you doing it, especially consistently. Like, I don't feel motivated. I freaking have an 8-month-old and I don't sleep. You don't sleep and you run a business and like you could be doing so many different things. Like
I'm going
you're
to
not
plane every 3
motivated.
days. Yeah.
You're not playing for every freaking 3 days. Like never motivated. But I do it now because it's part of what I do.
Yeah. I think motivation is the biggest crock. I think it's such a good marketing ploy that's fake. I think it's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say, but like fuck motivation. I mean, motivation comes once you've built momentum, and like if we waited till we were ready, waited till we were motivated, we would be waiting forever. And there would never be consistency built around it because to your point, like some days we feel like shit, some days we're tired, some days we just don't feel like it, some days are busy. And I'm not saying that we need to force ourselves to do things that we don't want to do all the time, but like in taking care of ourselves, like insert any other self-care practice, showering, brushing our teeth, washing our face. Like I never motivated to do that shit. And yet it's something that I need to do in order to be well. And so I think that like, yeah, we need to, I think rather than spending our time waiting to be motivated, I think we would be better served creating a little bit more space to do the thing. We need to make room for it in some way.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you're somebody that's like all about like the mindset, then like
Mhm.
then go back, focus on the why.
Mhm.
Don't focus on the how, because the how is where we think about motivation.
Mhm.
But yeah, think about space, think about why,
Yeah.
think about what you like to do.
And I think I do think the why needs to be a deep why.
Deep,
Um,
real deep.
yeah, because I think like as we had said, like if it's something more surface level, that's not going to get us to like lace up our sneakers when like we really don't feel like it.
Also, I like to add that my why that I said before, as far as like aging and longevity goes, that actually goes along with like the types of workouts that I like to do now. That I'm like very strength training heavy in my workouts, some ability, flexibility stuff, and then cardio also comes in there because it should, because like we have to work on our hearts, right? But like I don't even like to do that part anymore, and that used to be like my favorite part.
Mhm.
Um, and I've totally reworked the kinds of workouts that I like to do kind of like based on that why.
Mhm.
So depending on what someone else's why is, like if you're training for something or if like you do just want to become more flexible or like whatever that why is, um, then like that might help you figure out what the
Mhm.
workouts that you're going to be doing are.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, I think that's really relevant. And again, I know the next thing that I'm about to say definitely might not be accessible to other people, but it is really hard going back to motivation. Like it can be really hard to motivate yourself to like put on a YouTube video or like or something else and like do something at home. And so if you have an opportunity to like go to a gym where there's people there or like join a group fitness class or like again you said like a dance class, something like that where there's people, that the community aspect of fitness can be really helpful, and also like help with accountability too. And that when I was like starting my fitness journey, like there was like a friend of mine who was also like working out at the same time, like not at the same time as me, but like also like kind of getting into working out. And that was just like helpful. And like just having someone to like tell was helpful. Right now I'm working out in a group fitness setting. That's like what I need right now. I feel like I need that. I need to be coached a little bit because I want to push myself more and need some support in doing that. But I think that also having like another external force can be helpful too.
Great. Wrap us up.
Okay. Well, we would love, I mean, as we said a number of times, Catherine and I are probably unique in this, and maybe we're annoying, and I'm sorry. But would love to hear like what gets in your way with fitness or like what your fitness journeys have looked like, where you have felt like that passion where you get stuck. Like we really want to hear from you. And so we'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode, whether it's again on our YouTube page, Reactivity TV on YouTube, or again in Spotify if you're listening there, or you can send us an email to wishingyouvell@revivecfw.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode and on your own fitness journey. So please get in contact with us there. You can also check us out on Instagram at Wishing You Well Pod. You can find Catherine at Catherine Van Eyck, me at Amy Albero LCSW. Check out our main website, revivecfw.com, to figure out all what's going on over there. And we will be back next week with another episode. But until then, we are wishing you well. Bye.